All right, how's everyone doing? I'm Rich CELENZA. Thanks for tuning in to the Rich CELENZA Show. WTF are you talking about? So I haven't done a podcast in quite a while. But I had two things kind of come up this week that I definitely thought about doing a podcast related to those subjects. And what it's really, or what I'm going to talk about regarding this podcast is what I'm basically going to call, what is the trick to being consistent when it comes to working out? So if you don't work out, most likely you're not going to like this podcast. But if you are thinking of working out or have worked out for many years and have been inconsistent, I think I might have some information here that might be able to help you. Because the truth is, I think most people are inconsistent over the years, and I don't blame them. I have just been one of very few that I know that never really stopped working out from a very young age, with the exception of like a year or two off and on because my daughter had a liver transplant. I've discussed that before on my previous podcast, that I lost a lot of weight and I lost a lot of strength during that process, or going through that, but I really didn't care because it was more about getting my daughter healthy than me being obsessed always with my own health. But I was recently at dinner, I should say lunch, I take that back, with some of my close friends. We meet at our, an old friend of ours from Sicily, Nono's, in Altamont Springs, Florida. And a lot of us are close friends with the owner, Stefano, son Lenny, Marie, and their daughter, actually, Antonella, owns a pizzeria in Winter Park as well. Great food, love the family, and we meet up there anytime we can. I travel a lot. Some of my other friends, some travel as well. But we were up there I think we're up there Tuesday, whatever the case may be. And we were talking about a lot of different bodybuilders because I've been sending videos on a lot of different things related to bodybuilding that we used to all follow. And a lot of them are dying or they're sick. A lot of kidney transplants, a lot of issues with a lot of guys that we kind of looked up to in the bodybuilding world. And it kind of breaks our heart. But one of my buddies who actually was more hardcore than even I was, that I met in summer school when I was like 15, when I used to do summer schools in Florida, he was the first one to really teach me how to do different body parts or groups. He was taking amino acids, and I didn't even know what the hell those were. He was talking about, different types of shakes back in the early 80s. I mean, this is probably not early, mid, maybe 85. And, he was really the one who just taught me a lot of stuff, and he has not been as consistent as he wanted to be over the years. Excuse me, let me get some water. He still looks great, I think. But he said, as a joke to a lot of other friends that I hear all the time when they say, hey, you still working out? He goes, no, Rich does the lifting for both of us, which I thought was kind of funny. But in this case, we were talking about how some of us have been consistent and some of us haven't. And for the most part, a lot of my friends are gym rats, especially in Florida. That's how I met a lot of them, was through the gym and through other friends that worked out as well. And I've discussed this before, that I used to be able, I worked out with a lot of professional wrestlers, power lifters, some bodybuilders, not necessarily worked out with them, but knew of them. They'd come in our gym. I used to belong to World's and Gold Gym simultaneously in Orlando, Florida. And then I've always been known to try to work out at any gym that was available to me, even if I had to pay for it. So I was able to run across a lot of different people throughout the years, throughout North America, working out. But I never bothered them, and obviously they never bothered me. But, we talked about consistency. So my friend said, how did you stay so consistent? It's kind of unbelievable that you keep doing this. What makes you keep doing this? Because, I have a couple daughters. Like I said, one had a liver transplant, another one has type 1 diabetes. I've been through a divorce myself. I've moved multiple times. I've changed jobs as well, and I travel probably more than anybody I know. And I'm still able to try to fit as many workouts that I can in. And one of the reasons is the time. I don't get caught up in times. If I have an availability in the morning, and that's the only time I can work out, I do it. If it's in the middle of the day, I try to do it. If it's late at night, I try to do it. I don't get caught up with coming up with all these different excuses why I can't get to the gym. It's kind of a reverse of that. Why can't I get to the gym? It's actually, there's no excuse for me not to get to a gym, unless maybe there's a blizzard or a tornado that comes in and wipes the gym out. But I look at things differently. I look at when I want to go do something, nothing's going to stop me from doing that. But what I think happens with a lot of people is they usually even wake up, especially middle-aged, and are already tired. And I am too as well. And they're thinking about, my God, I dread work and I dread that I'm going to have to work out. Even if you work out before you go to work, after work, in between, whatever the case may be, you're kind of dreading that workout. You're not looking forward to it. So the one thing I talk about all the time is you have to like what you're doing. For some reason, I like lifting weights. I once had an uncle when I was younger that's very strong, and he'd always see me lifting weights in my bedroom, and he'd be like, how do you do this? This is the most boringest thing I've ever done is work out with weights. He couldn't even stand it. And I don't know, maybe it's just something that's internal in me that I love to do. But, I'm just talking about weights. But if you have wanted to work out, over the years and have been consistent, one of the things besides you not having time maybe to do it, starting a family or whatever you're starting a new job, whatever the case may be, if you always liked what you did, you're going to get there more often. It's like anything else, right? If you love surfing, you're going to find time to surf. I realized that even when I lived in California, being in Florida, even if guys got to drive an hour a day to go catch, some waves. A lot of things people love to do will go way out of their way to do it. And, some people, I like to walk. My daughter today said, man, do you love to walk? I do love to walk. Sometimes I'll just have people drop me off wherever. And I'll walk back 2 miles, 4 miles. But I hate the run now. When I was younger, I loved the run. Now I don't love the run. It just jars me. But back to being consistent when working out. The one thing I want to get into on this podcast before I forget it, and a lot of times I do forget things, is I think one thing happens to a lot of people, and it's injuries. And I think what happens is and it could be very minute, it could be very small. I mean, it could be even ridiculous. But a lot of times if you're looking for an excuse to stop working out, you're going to come up with one. You know what I mean? But I think a lot of times people do get injured, and you could pull your lower back, you could, whatever it is, you could, hurt your finger hypothetically, you could break a toe. I mean, it could be very minute, or it could become very serious. You break your arm, your wrist, whatever the case may be. Pull something in your neck, pull a hamstring, whatever, tear something. The thing I think what happens with people is when they do get injured and they take time off, even if they go to therapy or try to recover, it seems like it's harder to come back, I've realized, especially as you get older. And I tore my rotator cuff in my early 20s, really bad. And they were talking about surgery, and then I ended up in the future getting a couple of cortisone shots, which changed my life. It was amazing. But I remember I have a phase, it's ridiculous. I have a way of thinking where sometimes you have to start all over. And that's the second part of this. So if you get injured, a lot of people want to give up because they lose a lot of muscle mass. When they go back to the gym, they know, oh my God, I got to kind of start over. How long is this going to take me? It's never going to be the same. I'm never going to feel the same. I'm never going to get the results. They almost start coming up with all these things in their head, which really are kind of ridiculous. And don't get me wrong, if you do have an injury that has set you back to that level, that's something you're going to have to deal with. That's a reality. You may not be ever as fast as you once were. You may not be as strong as you once were. And it could be as simple as you wanting to play golf and, you start having injuries, because I have an uncle that has injuries regarding his neck and some other injuries throughout the back of his shoulders, and he's not the same. He keeps telling me, but he still does really well. But he's not the same. That doesn't mean he's going to quit golf. Then again, he's not going to maybe get the scores he once got, but that doesn't mean he's going to quit. He still loves what he's, playing the sport. But I think that's one reason why people are kind of inconsistent, is because of injuries, even small ones. And back to starting over, if you do get injured, I just want to give my opinion on this, because I went through it with my rotator's cuff, because I was getting really strong. I was benching well over 400 pounds. I was squatting, over 500 pounds for reps. If anybody knows me, they knew I lifted a lot of weight. And all of a sudden, I'm like, what am I going to do here? Like, I remember I went into the emergency room because my shoulder just kept, we were playing football, truthfully. And I made a real big hit. And then later down the road, I came and I fell on it and it snapped back my shoulder. And then it dropped me to my knees. I tried to get up and play, tackle them. And then I was like, I'm in bad shape. So, and I never liked going to the hospital. But that night it kept, like, I couldn't, it was hurt. It would drop me to my knees. Like, my shoulder would just start, it snapped right out of joint. So my, at the time, girlfriend, my ex-wife, took me to the emergency room and they wrapped me all up. They're like, yeah, you snapped that. And I very seldom ever got injured in my life. This was one of very few. And they says, you're not going to be able to work off for a very long time. You may have to have surgery and all this shit. I'm like, oh my God, this is whack. But they said, well, let's start with this. We know you lift weights and start doing, here's a piece of paper. They had a whole or a catalog of what I could start doing in the future because I was all wrapped up. They wrapped my shoulders all these different ways. I couldn't even move my shoulders for weeks. And I could use my right arm, and I used to collect money. And my dad freaked out because I would collect money independently for vending. And the truth was we all carried guns and things. But if somebody made a move on me, I was a dead man. He was, it was true. It was right. He was right. Where, I'm carrying something, you got to carry a case in, then you collect the money and you carry the money out with the case. I could carry it. I could hold it. To make a big deal, let's not make a big deal out of this. I still collected money. I said, get on it. No one's going to stop me from doing what I could do. The good news was I could actually slide my gun at that point in time right behind the one of the areas, which I loved. But to make a long story short, they told me not to work out. And I never took any time off. I just would work the right side of my body. I tore my left rotator cuff. And I just started to do more legs when I could. I was doing like one, if I had to do back, everything was just on the right side. And everyone's like, well, you're going to be off balance, blah, blah, blah. I didn't care. I wasn't going to stop working out. And then as time went on, he showed me these rubber band movements. And this is like in the this is early 90s. It wasn't nearly as advanced now. Remember, there's no internet. It's Flex or Muscle magazine, or Muscle and Fitness magazine, or Muscular Development might have been out as well. And he showed me these rubber band things they were starting to do and some other dumbbell stuff. And I still do that to this day. I never stopped doing that. It was a warm-up. Eventually, it was to build my strength back up. And I started from ground zero. But while I was even going through the process of recovery, I never let the rest of my body know that it was any weaker. Even though, obviously it was weaker. But my brain kept saying, you're the same. Like everything's the same except this one area. It's almost like a car that's damaged that you're going to eventually fix, right? Doesn't mean the car can't run. Doesn't mean it can't be as strong as it once was. Like, sure, there might be it doesn't look as good. It may not feel as good. Maybe the left, rear or right front tire, something was a little screwed up. But you can still function. And that's how I kind of looked at that. And then as time went on, I got stronger and stronger and stronger, and eventually I never had surgery, but I did some years later. I don't know how many years. I want to say maybe 8, 9 years. I don't know how many years later. I started to have some major problems again with it, and that's when I went in to see a specialist, the guy who did the Orlando Magic, and I walked in. I said, "Man, I can't even sleep anymore. This has just become dreadful," and I was lifting heavy weights again, of course. And I didn't want to stop. And he looked at me and then he said, I remember him in the room, and he's a really well-renowned doctor. Like I said, he does the Orlando Magic. Did he do the Miami Heat? I don't think so. He did the Orlando Magic and the Predators. That was a arena football. And we had a place downtown Orlando, and somebody knew of him. A doctor I knew recommended him, and I went in and he did all these things. He's like, "Hey, try this," and he's like, pushing me against the wall. I had all these areas that I was very strong. He was actually impressed, I think. He's like, "Man." Then he said, "Try this," and I went to do it, and it dropped me almost right to my knees. He's like, "I don't want to have surgery. I don't want to give you surgery, but can you take shots?" And I'm like, "I'm deathly afraid of shots." He's like, "Well, I don't know what else to tell you. Let's try 2 cortisone shots." So he gave me the 2 cortisone shots, and what I did was, I should say from this point on, I went back to my roots when my shoulder injury originally happened. And I started to do all those exercises, all the stretching before. Like I said, I do still to this day. And then I also was doing a Dorian workout, Dorian Yates style workout. But I started to do something as well that I read, or I might have saw a video once, and he warms up his entire upper body. He does, like he was doing at this point in time. I don't know. I just remember him riding a bike, maybe 5 minutes, but then he would warm his chest up, his tris, bis, back. Everything would get warmed up. But the first thing, I would do a stretch, and then I would do, warm my shoulders up. And I still doing this. Sometimes I still have shoulder issues, but I always look at my workout starting from ground zero. That's my point. You may have an injury that has set you back. And the truth was, after that, even after the cortisone shots, I really never could be as strong as I once was in my youth. Even though, the cortisone shots, but I could tell when I did a lot of certain exercises, it was not helping me. And I talk about this all the time. Make sure when you're working out, it is truly benefiting you. I get a lot of times it's benefiting your ego. That's great, but you have to look down the line 5, 10, 20, 30 years. And back to my, the bodybuilders, even some I know and some that I followed that are in really bad shape now physically. I mean, really bad. You can't look at working out, and I'm just using weights as an example, but you can be a runner or you could be whatever. And my daughter, I think, tore up her calf muscles doing all these boot camps. And I told her sometimes, and she's really sad because she's losing a lot of her strength. She went in for an MRI today, actually. And I said, listen, you're only in your 20s. Your legs have to work for you for the rest of your life. Those type of workouts, or those many type of workouts, or whatever you were doing, may have actually been damaging your body, not helping you, even though you thought it was helping you, which I think a lot of people make those type of mistakes. That doesn't mean you're a pussy. That doesn't mean anything. Everybody's bodies is different entirely. Some people can handle things and some can't. Some people could develop that skill, some can't. It's kind of like a Navy SEAL hypothetically compared to a regular soldier. Nothing against either one, but you have different levels of soldiers that physically can handle things. It would be the same in, say, fighting. It could be in the NFL, whatever the case may be. Some people are just built differently. They can handle things differently, physically and even mentally as well. So that was really the one thing I want to get into, is learning to start over and not be discouraged. And I've talked about this as well, especially for guys that are getting older, because this is also happening to a lot of my friends. They kind of first were always trying to keep up with their youth. And that's not going to, that can only go so far. And I'm in that stage too. I just turned 50 and I am not nearly as strong as I was even 5 years ago. I think I'm working out a lot smarter though. And I'm actually getting very different types of results. I don't know if you've been listening to or watching some of my YouTube videos, but I've been doing all these different types of workouts on YouTube. And I'm watching them and I'm learning all these different types of exercises that are really funny, because some of them I'm like, wow, that was like kind of cheating, or that's kind of weird, or this or that. And it's amazing, and I'm always about experimenting and evolving, and it's working for me even at 50 years old. And what's interesting, back to ground zero, starting all over again, is because these are all new movements, I have to go very light, because a lot of the areas, even though I'm pretty developed and strong in a lot of areas still, it's like starting over. It's embarrassing sometimes when I'm at the gym, but I'm like, I have to first, learn how to get this movement down before I keep increasing the weight, because I don't have it as good as I thought. And there's so many different things you could do in the gym. It's absolutely amazing. And, it's really like artistic and creative. And I think if you're having problems too, being consistent in the gym is also, and I discuss this all the time, is one could be trying different gyms, trying all different types of workouts, right? Because a lot of times if you're getting the results you want and you like what you're doing, why would you kind of ever stop, right? If you want to lift weights and get bigger, you're going to probably, it's going to keep going. But eventually, and I talk about this, you are going to plateau, right? It's not like you keep growing. You're not 200, 250, 300, 350, 500. So you're not going to, there comes a point where your body's going to say, this is it. This is it. Now, if you want to jump on steroids, growth hormone, whatever you want to do, do whatever you want to do. But there does come a point, even strength. It's not like you're going to bench 300, 400, 500, 700. Some do. I take that back. One in millions. And again, What are they willing to sacrifice to do that? Again, are they taking different types of supplements, back to steroids, growth hormone? Also, genetically, you have these guys like, the strongest men on the earth. They're a different type of specimen than most people, right? So you have to consider that as well. And don't get frustrated. And that's what I was going to say too. A lot of times if you have to start over, because, back to quitting, going to the gym, quitting, being inconsistent, you a lot of times go back to the gym and you're just not nearly what you once were, so then you quit again. You're like, Jesus Christ, how long is it going to take me to get back to where I once was? It ain't even worth it anymore. Or, wow, I gained 20 pounds over the last year. Or, my God, look at my age. I'm just ready to call it quits. And I get it. If you're ready to call it quits, that's on you. But if you really find yourself kind of going in and out of a gym or in and out of different types of workouts, something your body and your mind, they want to do something. They want to improve. It just takes, that one thing to start clicking. And take it slow. Too many people try to get too quick of results in the gym, or they start truly judging themselves compared to what others have gotten or what they have gotten in the past. But the older you get, you have to realize it just takes longer from what a lot of times you don't realize too is when you're older, you're smarter a lot of times regarding working out. But a lot of people don't give themselves enough time to figure things out, and they also don't realize all the potential they have because they quit too early. Even if you've worked out, say, for years, right? You quit, you go back for a couple years, you quit. When you go back, times have changed. You have changed. Training has changed. You can learn so many new things that you didn't know before. Facilities have changed. Equipment has changed. Everything is changing and evolving. It's almost kind of like anything else that it could be your cell phone compared to the first iPhone I had, compared to the one that now, that has evolved. And you have evolved as well. But you've got to, just like you have to learn about the new cell phone, hypothetically, I'm just using, you have to learn about your body because that has changed as well. And I promise you, a lot of times the slower you go at coming back at working out, the better you're going to be. Better than kind of going nuts, I tell people, and all of a sudden doing a New Year's resolution where you say, hey, I'm going to work out, make a comeback. I'm going to be in that gym, 4 to 6 days a week. I'm going to do this type of workout. I'm going to do this. I'm going to lose all this weight, or I'm going to eat better. I'm like, give me a break. It's ridiculous a lot of times. A lot of us know what we love to eat. We know how much we're going to sleep. We know what we're going to do. You have to be, take a realistic approach, right? A lot of us love the foods we eat, good or bad. If you truly want to get results, try to find it in the middle. Eat some of the foods you like. If you want to diet a little more or change your eating habits, change them a little bit. If you like drinking, doesn't mean you have to go cold turkey. Have your drinks, just don't maybe drink as much. If you like working out, doesn't mean you have to kill yourself at the beginning. Maybe be realistic and say, I'm going to get in here 2 to 3 times a week and be consistent instead of bullshitting yourself and saying I'm going to be here 4 to 6 times a week. And you do that for like the first month or two, and then that's over, and then it's 3 days a week, and then it's 2, and then it's I'm going to take a week on, I'm going to take a week off. Before you know it, it's a month off. All these things start to happen. I always said you're better off even going to a gym, if you're going to use an example as a gym for a couple days, and take a realistic approach. Also, if you're going to do any type of, if you take up surfing, I'll just use for example, that doesn't mean you have to go surfing every day to get better. Same with golfing. A lot of guys I know living in Florida, San Diego, all of a sudden they get on a golfing kick. And I was one of these assholes. I'm going to be very honest with you. I even lived on one of the longest golf courses in North America at one time. Like, we start playing golf, and all of a sudden we're obsessed with golf. We have to golf on a lot of our free time, this and that, and I truthfully burnt out. I was like, you know what, this takes up too much time. I'm getting aggravated, and I was actually doing pretty good in golf. Like, that was one thing I will say about myself that I really thought I could really have a really good niche for. I think even the last time I played with my uncle, and that's after taking like 15 years off, I shot a birdie. Did I shoot an eagle? I can't remember, but he was shocked And I was pretty shocked too. But golf came really natural to me. I was really strong, so I was hitting a really, I was just getting really good. And to make a long story short, I just burnt myself out. And I think that's what also happens to a lot of people. It's either you go too hard and you burn yourself out, or you go kind of also too lackadaisical, where you're kind of like, oh, I'm going to hit the gym, 2, maybe 3 times, and then you're only going once. Or you're going like on a Monday, and then you may go on a Sunday, or, whatever the case may be. And if you're one of those people who has a problem, again, being consistent, you might make things as simple as possible for you. I have one of my closest friends who's been telling me his whole life he's going to work out with me. He jumps in and out. He joins gyms he literally joined my gym probably about a year ago with me. I've probably worked out with him, I'm not exaggerating, maybe 3 or 4 times. He's usually late. Every time I'm traveling, he calls me, he goes, I'm going to start. I'm sick of the way I look. This is the week I start. When you get back, never happens. Very seldom. I told him, he lives in a high-rise. I said, you forget my gym. Why don't you, first of all, accept that you don't like lifting weights? He doesn't. He wants to lift weights, but I know deep down inside he despises them. Even when he gets there, he's not putting full effort in. And he's a really good athlete. He likes racquetball. I don't know why he doesn't go play that. But he has a gym right downstairs from his house, his condo, I'm sorry. And it's a nice gym. I said, just start going down there once or twice a week. Forget coming to meet me, or quit coming to, all the LA Fitnesses, the signature gyms. And I know they have the sauna and there's women there that you want to look at. I get the whole thing. But just start there, start building up some momentum. He also has a beautiful pool. I said, go start doing different things in there. Doing different exercises. I know you love to swim. Also, I told him, he lives downtown. I said, walk more. His office, what happened with him is he lives right across the street from where he works. So now he's not even walking that much, where before he was walking a ton. Before he was just walking all over the place. And he liked walking in the city, and he lived in different places, and he'd walk. And now that even cut down. So now he's not working out as much. He's not walking as much. And again, make things, if you find everything a hassle, to go do what you want to do, regarding what it is, then you're going to most likely quit if you're not enjoying it. Now, I even get aggravated. Like, I go to a lot of cities and I rent cars. And like, I was in Chicago once, and it's expensive to park. It's hard to find parking. If I didn't live down there, I would be aggravated. In a lot of places, I go to certain gyms, and it aggravates me sometimes, especially gyms in LA. I'm not going to lie. It's especially if I'm driving, like, it really pisses me off. Boston would be another place. If I'm in the city, it's aggravating the shit out of me. There's certain areas, I could go through a bunch of them, that piss me off. Now, if I had to go through that every day, I don't know if I would do it. I would have to find something else. If you find yourself at a position where going to do whatever you're doing is aggravating you to that level, then you should, and you're not consistent, you need to find something that's going to take that edge off, where it's kind of, again, enjoyable. Now, I don't know what that is, right? That's something you have to figure out. Now, if you are in a place where what you love to do, so if you live in Chicago and love to surf, then I don't know what to tell you, right? I'm just using that for an example. But maybe find something else. There are so many different types of exercises you could do out there, from yoga to Pilates. I don't care if it's CrossFit. I don't care if it's bodybuilding. I don't care if it's rock climbing. Their crew, whatever the case may be, even if you're in cold weather states, there's so many things you could do. Obviously, if you live in California, or the West Coast in general, or even the East Coast, you could, or anywhere you could go hiking. If you want to snow ski, or if you also want to live a healthier life, and there's like something you have a lot of passion for. So if you love to snow ski or snowboard, and that's what you love to do, and you never have the opportunity to do that, right? And that's really one of the things you really like. Vacation, that's what you go do. You may just consider moving somewhere for your health if you can. Now, I know a lot of people can't do that because they have families, they're grounded, they have homes or whatever. But if you're maybe single, and you want to start doing something like, maybe even like when I lived in San Diego, I think I may be wrong, but I think that's the Cap. I lived in Carlsbad, but that's like almost like where everyone goes to do what is it, marathons, decathlons, all those type of CrossFit. Like it's a monster in San Diego, and a lot of them train there. And I know it's expensive to be there, but if you're somebody who's obsessed in a certain type of world, go live in it, right? Because I see a lot of people that want to do things that are physical, but they're not in the right surroundings for what they like to enjoy. And I get everybody may like to be in a warm climate, but I'm talking somebody who really has been inconsistent, but who has a lot of potential and has a lot of interest in doing something that they're not able to do regarding the location they live in. It's almost like you're depriving your body something you want to go do and achieve. So that was, and I get we can run anywhere for the most part, right? I don't care if you're in Russia. I don't care if you're in Florida. I don't care if you're in California or if you're in the Midwest. You can run, you could exterior, interior. But again, do you love where you're running, right? Do you love running up mountains? Do you like hiking? Do you love being more outdoors? Do you like a certain climate? I moved to Florida because of a climate. And I sometimes wonder, growing up was always inside YMCAs or gyms for lifting, but I loved it being warm outside, but I like being inside. But I knew, like, even getting to a gym and doing a lot of things, but when I'd come to summer school in Florida and go to these other gyms, they were just so hardcore. And they had way more advanced equipment. They had guys that were just bigger and stronger, and I was learning from. I realized a big part of who I was, why I was attracted to Florida, or I was going to go to California. I liked the lifestyle they lived with fitness. It was a big part of me. So maybe that is something that you should consider if you're not being consistent, is kind of engulfing yourself in what you, or at least giving it a shot. Now, I'm not telling anybody to go out and, all of a sudden you think you want to start doing all Tough Mudders, that you got to go live a certain place to do that or whatever. I'm just telling you something that I went through, and I think by me moving to Florida and going to these type of gyms, being around these type of people, pushed me to become what I became. In Chicago, I was definitely always lifting weights, and I'm sure I would maybe not would have gotten as strong, but I was living in a place called Melrose Park, and at that point in time, I used to go to a civic center, but when I came to Florida, there was Body Masters, there was Orange Avenue Gym, which is one of the original gyms, or if not the first gym in North America, and I'm not kidding, but it was a powerlifting gym downtown Orlando, Florida, and then I had Golds, and then Worlds, and there were a lot of, it was just another world. Then they had the Mr. Olympia in the 90s, and, they all came to town. And bodybuilding is just really big in Florida. And a lot of football dudes, because football was it's still huge here, obviously. But, so we had the Gators, you got, Florida State, you had University of Miami, and their heyday. All these dudes, and I was able to go in these gyms. If I was in South Florida visiting family, I'd go there. If I was in Tampa, I'd go there. If I was in Gainesville, I'd go to the gyms there. And it was just another level, because I would go to my friend's college who went to Northern Illinois. I once did a squat off with their strongest bodybuilder. We're just both going at each other, seeing how heavy or how many reps we could do. And even their equipment was nowhere near at the level that we had. And they had some bigger guys there, but not like what I was seeing in Florida. And then I was traveling a lot. I was even going to California, and it was just different. It was just different. So, and I wasn't training to be a bodybuilder. This wasn't something like a lot of guys move to California. It could be Florida. It could be wherever. I don't care if it's Cleveland, Ohio. They're big in the, bodybuilding. And I went to do it, not to be in shows or anything. I just loved warm weather, and I loved being in an environment where they were lifting heavy weights and there were big dudes. And I was almost mentally competing with them. And I just like the lifestyle better. So that would be something, if you're maybe not consistent, but like I said, if you love doing something physical and you're looking to get healthier, but you kind of find yourself kind of not being healthier, a lot of it can really be your environment. And this is what I'm going to wrap it up with, is as we get older, regarding working out, for some reason, like I said before, we're always kind of trying to keep up with our youth. And we also, I guess you could say, sometimes we quit. And what you got to realize, you get older, your workouts are going to change, but maybe working out more, entirely different than what you did in your past. And what I'm trying to say there is, in your past, you may have worked out differently for maybe, you may have been a lot stronger and you may have worked out for a certain amount of time. But as you get older, right, you can work out just as hard, and you can actually work out for longer periods of time, maybe even, or do things that are entirely different and still get the same kind of results. It may not be in strength, but I see tons of guys now, especially middle-aged 50s and 60s, and honestly, they look so much better than I remember them in their 20s and 30s and even 40s. And what I think they do is again, they incorporate a lot of different things that are healthy, instead of a lot of times, like when I was younger, I basically just did the gym. That's all I do. I'd hit the gym an hour and a half, 2 hours, 4 to 5 days a week. That's what I did. For a long period of time, I thought I had a lot of strength. Did I always feel that good? No. But I would say now my workouts, as I'm older, are a lot longer because I warm up even more. I also hit a sauna a lot, for 15 minutes. I also incorporate a lot of swimming into my workouts as well. Before, I would incorporate different things, but I do more things fitness related. So again, I may not be as strong, but I may be in better shape to a certain degree. Not necessarily all the time, but it wasn't to the point where I wanted to quit because I wasn't strong enough as my past. And I also didn't want to be in a position where, how do I say this? I also didn't want to be, I don't want to get screwed up here, but I just would, I'm going to wrap this damn thing up. I don't want to get too long-winded here. There goes my little cat over there. Let me grab some water here. Basically what I'm saying is, even though I'm getting older, I just incorporate a lot more things. I walk a lot more. I swim a lot more. My workouts are a little longer. I may not be as big or as strong, but I definitely am, seeing those type of results is what also keeps me going back for more, is what I'm basically trying to say. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. If you like any of this, you might want to check out my YouTube video. And wow, I didn't even realize it went 37 minutes. That felt like 10 minutes to me. But my YouTube, Rich CELENZA, I do a lot of things fitness related. I'm also on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And please, if you don't quit on yourself, and if you do need to take time sometimes, you just might need to figure it out from there. And while you're taking time, always try different people's workouts. Try to go with different colleagues, friends, family members. And, the last thing I would really say on this subject is maybe the people, maybe you just need to make it a little more social, okay? And meet different people, try different exercises, because a lot of times I tell people, if you're just by yourself, or if you joined the gym with a friend and they quit, a lot of people like to do things as groups. Just admit it, all right? All right, take care, and if you're traveling, safe travels.